Hi everyone, it's me, Dalita, and today I would like to talk about recursion. So what is recursion? In programming world, we know that functions can call each other from different locations of the code. But sometimes a function can call itself. That's what recursion is. And why we use recursion? Because there are many problems in universe that can be easily solved by understanding the concept of recursion. So what are those problems? Sometimes there are problems that can be solved by applying the same solution to the smaller portion of the original problem. Let's say, for example, the power function. So the power function is when the constant base is multiplied by the current number of times. So this is the same problem of multiplying that constant number by the smaller power function. And we can call the same function with smaller parameters, which will actually lead to solve the whole problem. To understand this better, let's look at an example. So what is 4 to the power 3? It is 4 multiplied by 4 to the power 2. What is 4 to the power 2? It is 4 multiplied by 4 to the power 1, which is 4. So, by knowing this, we can apply this to function world in our code. Now, let's see how functions can be called and how control can be passed. For example, I have a function called func1, but let me save this file at first to highlight the syntax. So this function is cancelling and function1. I have another function which is called func2, and this function is cancelling this statement. Now I'm calling function1 and function2. So what happens is that the code, as soon as sees a function call, it goes and calls the function1. So after our function is being executed completely, the control is being passed where our execution originally took place. So then we are calling the function2. And as you can see, console log is also a function because we are telling him, hey, print this message for us, and then return the control where I was. So now let's see what happens if function1 calls function2. So we are calling our function1, then it console logs a message, and the control is being passed to the next statement. So our next statement is calling the function2. So after our function2 is being executed completely, the control is being passed to the function1 in line 4. So when our function1 is returned, the control is being passed to our very first call in line 11. So by understanding this, let's start writing the recursive function. So I'm writing the power function, which has two arguments, the base and the power. And this function is going to return the base multiplied by the smaller portion of the original problem. Because as I said, 4 to the power 3 is 4 multiplied by 4 to the power 2. But as we see, we have a problem in here because this function is going to call itself infinitely. This means we need a terminating condition that will stop the execution of our power. So our terminating condition will be when our power equals 0. And we know that anything to the power 0 is always 1. So we reached to the place where we cannot go further anymore, because we defined a rule that where our function should stop calling itself. So now we can easily write our terminating condition, which is if our power equals 0, then the answer is definitely 1. But for the rest of the positive numbers, we have this, which is base multiplied by the power function and with a smaller power number. So now let's debug it ourselves to understand what's going on. So I call the function with the values 4 and 3. And then I want to console log the result. So our power function, as a newborn baby, will rise and see that it has been called with parameters 4 and 3. So at first we check, does 3 equal to our terminating condition? No, it doesn't, so we move forward. And we're multiplying 4 by the power of 4 and by the smaller portion of power, which is 3 minus 1. So now our function has been called with new parameters, 4 and 2. We again check and we see that 2 is not equal to our terminating condition. So we are multiplying 4 by the power function with 4 and 2 minus 1. Remember that our function is a newborn baby on each call. So at this time, it has been called with another new parameters, with 4 and 2 minus 1, which is 1. So 1 is not equal to 0, and we are returning 4 multiplied by the power function with 4 and 1 minus 1. Now we have parameters 4 and 0. And 0 is equal to our terminating condition, which means that we need to return 1, and we don't care about the rest of the code. So we are just returning 1, and after this, the control is being passed to the previous call when our power was 1. Then after this return, the control is again being passed to the previous call when our power was 2. And so on until we reach the very first call. So now let me run this code in terminal and see how it works. That's it. Now let's try for another number. Let's say 2 to the power 3. That's it. We saw how it works. So I hope you liked my video. Thanks very much for watching. Goodbye.